This episode of the DJ Force X podcast is proudly sponsored by Fixed. Fixed is a fan and artist-friendly independent record label that specialises in hybrid electronic rock. It's home to the likes of Celduella, Blue Starly, I Will Never Be the Same, Richie Nix, The Algorithm, Voicians, CD Akira, and a whole bunch more. Check out their latest label sampler for just $1 at their official store, fixedstore.com. That's FIXT store.com. Save 10% off your first order by using my coupon code FORCEX. That's FORCEX. They have loads of shirts, hoodies, stickers, posters, and many other accessories for all their artists, and this is available worldwide with fantastic international shipping rates to go with that. So head over to fixedstore.com and check them out. And don't forget, use my coupon code FORCEX. Hello and welcome to the DJ Force X podcast, episode 52. Last week we had a double header. This week we're going to have a double header, but this is start of a series of podcasts that will be happening every other couple of podcasts. But I'm going to hit you up with a double to start with. Now, this is more of an industry-based podcast interview. Now, I've got a brand manager from a drinks company coming up. His name is James Pattison. He works for Fireball here in the UK. They are sponsoring a tour called Fueling the Fire, headlined by Less Than Jake, with support from Mariachi El Bronx and the Skints. Also, on each of those shows, they've got a local opener who won a competition to be there. So they're kind of supporting local music while they're doing it, and for the tidy sum of only £10. Now, you can check out that tour if you go to fireballuk.com, find the Fueling the Fire links. There are tickets available via the usual outlets, but it's the O2 venues up and down the country. I think some of them are already sold out, but check it out. It should be a real fun tour, and if you're into that kind of drink away. My second interview is with a music manager, a band manager. Now, this guy, Andy Farrow, he has managed, or is managing currently, Paradise Lost, Opeth. He's helping out Devlin Townsend, Catatonia, and he has his roots really deep into the music industry. And yeah, it's an interesting interview. He also has if you're interested in managing a band, obviously after you listen to the podcast, you'll have some knowledge from it, but he has a webinar that he does called howtomanagebands.com, and it was set up by him and a couple of his friends, and it's basically advice for people who or musicians that don't know how the management side works, what they should look for, maybe if they want to go into music management. It's a good resource for you, so I stress to check that out if you're into it. So we go into various bits of conversation regarding the music industry and all that kind of stuff, and what they do and how they got there, and what exactly their role is within the circuit. I'm hoping to follow this up in a couple of weeks with a couple of other industry types. I'm looking for a music lawyer, publicist, a music accountant, just to maybe get a couple of bits of information from them. But yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it helpful, and let me know. Hit me back, Twitter at DJForceX, on Facebook DJForceX, and info at DJForceX.com is my email address. I do reply, so please fire away. And if you're wanting to know anything, hit me up as well. Maybe I know something, or maybe I know people who know something about the music industry, not just rock and metal, but also the dance music side of things as well. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this. A double header. There's not going to be any talking from me in between. There's going to be like a little musical interlude that it's going to go into Andy. So yeah, enjoy. Welcome to my show this week. I have James Pattison. He is the UK brand manager for the company Fireball. They make a cinnamon whiskey? Is that right, James?
That's right, yeah. It's a cinnamon flavoured product. It's whiskey based.
All right, cool. So yeah, just so I got that right. So yeah, welcome to the show, James. How are you doing today?
Really well, thanks. Great weather in London for a change, so I'm very happy with that.
Excellent. So let's just to start off, get a bit of background on the Fireball Company for those who aren't sure who they are.
Sure.
If you want to give us a bit of background.
Well, for the American listeners among them, they'll be pretty aware what Fireball is, I imagine. It's been a product in the States in one form or another for quite a while. Originally sort of developed as a flavoured schnapps as part of the Dr. McGilligoodies brand. And in 2007 had a rebrand and called Fireball Whisky now. Since then, it's had pretty much an unprecedented growth. Just to give you a couple of ideas of how it grew. In 2011, it was just short of 2 million in sales via retail, and 2 years later, up to 61 million in sales, which surpassed Patron Tequila and Jameson's Irish Whiskey, which is quite an amazing growth in such a short space of time. And even now, we're sitting atop of Jägermeister, and I think we're looking at sort of even Jack Daniel's volume in the States, which is pretty incredible.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, it's all sort of come about through cultivating bartenders, word of mouth, and a pretty small advertising budget. And also the American love of cinnamon, really.
Yes.
So my job is really trying to recreate some sort of following in the UK as well. We haven't had it quite as long. It's only been here for about 4 or 5 years now. And it's going pretty well. Sales are looking great. It's growing in popularity. It's got a really nice following, all within the consumer demographic. So signs are very positive at the moment.
Nice. I was going to say, I had heard of it from over here. A team I play on, kickball team, which is a sport people play here as a recreation. Before the game, 5 or 6 of my teammates used to do a pre-match fireball shot. So
that sounds like a good idea.
They needed it apparently. So it's So I had heard of it prior to this, which is kind of nice. So. But yeah, Fireball in the UK right now, they're about to, they've announced a tour called Fueling the Fire, and it's got Less Than Jake, El Mariachi, El Bronx, and the Skints as the main 3 bands.
3 fantastic bands, definitely.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So tell me more about that. What was the idea behind that? Is it just an awareness tour, or is it something that was...
it's certainly a brand awareness exercise, certainly. It was to create sort of a fun experience for fans of this sort of music, where Fireball traditionally does quite well. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to offer like a really good value tour. So tickets are just £10, where each of these bands could probably charge 15 by themselves for these sort of venues. But we wanted people to go in with the idea that they haven't spent that much money and feel committed to part of a fun night. But we've also put on a few more bands on top of that as well. We've got Kamiri and the Bennies, who are going to be playing 4 dates each. And then we had a competition as well, which we basically gave away the opening slot to local bands for each venue, which we're really excited about. We've got some great winners coming through on that. Yeah, no, I saw they announced the winners a few days ago. Let's go through them. You got AMFX. They'll be at the Birmingham date.
Cool. Better Days.
Better Days at Newcastle. Yeah. Cool.
Blackwater County.
Blackwater County, super fun sort of rock folk sort of thing from Bournemouth.
Cool.
And
Broken Three Ways.
They'll be playing the Manchester date.
Cool. Embers
will be playing at Glasgow.
Nice. Ghouls
will be at Brixton Academy.
Sweet Little Machine
will be playing at the Sheffield.
And Weather State
will be at the Bristol Academy.
Nice. I was actually going through those bands I was listening to, because you put up a SoundCloud compilation.
Indeed,
which people can find at soundcloud.com/fireballuk.
That's the one, yeah.
And it's all kind of punk, ska, two-tone reggae, kind of party vibe bands.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Embers track.
Yeah, we really wanted to tie in with the... Yeah, the Embers track's great. Yeah. We really wanted all the bands to sort of tie in and buy into the pop-punky, scary sort of party philosophy of the bill. And, we judged the bands between a couple of people, between myself, Ian Richard and Shaw Ryman from the Academy Music Group. Les and Jake were involved as well, and Jamie from Wall of Sound.
Nice.
And also Alex Baker at Kerrang Fresh Blood. So there was a couple of decent people on board to help judge that, and we had a hell of a lot of entries. I think it was over 900 in the end. Yeah. And there were some really, really high quality entries that but we were delighted with the ones we chose in the end.
Cool. So was that like they just submitted a track? Or was
Indeed,
it more of a...
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So it wasn't like a battle of the bands or anything, it was just...
No.
On the quality of the recording they had, so... Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So, the tour runs from the 3rd to the 11th of October.
It does indeed.
Up and down the UK. It's all the O2 venues as well. So it's the O2. I haven't got the dates in front of me. If you want to read them out.
So, we start on the 3rd of October at the Bristol O2 Academy, and then it'll be Sheffield on the 4th, 5th will be at Birmingham, 6th will be at the iconic Brixton Academy, 8th will be at Newcastle, 9th Glasgow, 10th of October at Manchester, and the 11th will be finishing up in Bournemouth.
Nice. And so, like you say, it's only £10 for the ticket. Any of those dates, are all the dates still available?
Manchester's unfortunately sold out now.
Okay.
We're looking like we will sell out pretty much all of them. Tickets are going quickly. We've got a month left now.
Nice.
Of ticket sales. So we're looking like we'll probably be mostly sold out. So if you're looking to get a ticket, it should be ASAP, really.
Excellent. And are you running any promotions at the nights for the Fireball drink? Do you know if there are any promos?
We will indeed, yeah. That'll all be on the night, nice surprise type thing.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
We like to have a trick up our sleeves.
Yes. Cool. So, so that runs from the 3rd to the 11th. It is called the Fueling the Fire Tour, and it is brought to you by Fireball. The main headliners are Less Than Jake, just to go back to it, Less Than Jake, Mariachi El Bronx, and the Skids. And each local show will have a local support band as well, which we've just gone through as well. And the next part of this, I'd actually like to ask you more about your job itself. So what would you say, or what are the responsibilities of being like a brand manager for a product or a company?
It's essentially just steering the brand in the right marketing direction. It's picking a demographic or knowing who your product sells well to, and activating and marketing within those spheres. So the fun side of the job is definitely running stuff like this tour. And other activations, and working alongside various promoters and influencer accounts, and just spreading the good word of Fireball, I guess. And I'm really lucky because I actually have a keen interest in rock and metal, where this brand actually does the best in the UK. Yeah. In the US, it's probably a bit more affiliated with country music. Yes. But that sort of user base doesn't really exist in the UK so much. But rock and metal, they do have a nice little brand tie in there. The not so fun side is managing a budget, drilling down case sales across various channels, and it's pretty much a desk job. It just has a lot of nice perks around the edges. Yeah, cool. So how would one become a brand manager? I mean, I know quite a few brand managers for different alcoholic products, and quite a few other products as well. And no one really seems to have the same story.
Well, how did you
quite an interesting one. So when I was at university, I worked at a few bars, ended up running a few venues as well, and had a decent product knowledge of the industry as a whole. Then after university, I worked corporately for a bit in the incredibly dynamic, flexible packaging industry, which was a little bit off the and then I joined High Spirits, who are the UK distributor of Fireball, and they look after about 40 products in the UK. Okay. Including like Buffalo Trace Bourbon, Southern Comfort now, and a couple of other brands as well. And I joined their sales team, and I worked for 2 years in that. And then the opportunity sort of presented itself because Fireball started to prop itself up as a premium focus brand for the company. And after seeing how well it did in the US as well, it became a real focus, and it needed a brand manager. And I jumped at the opportunity, really. Nice. I had an idea for where it should go, where it fitted, and luckily the company agreed with me, so they put me on. Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you for that. I've got a couple of questions left now. These are kind of ones that I ask everyone that I interview. So, cool. First one is the 3 top albums that have influenced you in your life. So, basically, what made you the person you are today? If you could pick 3. Brilliant. Yeah. So the first 2 are really easy for me. My 2 favourite bands. Yep. Without a shadow of a doubt, the first will be Refused, The Shape of Punk to Come. Cool, excellent. It's just really raw and energetic, and the first time you see New Noise live, like the hairs on your skin just stand up, and it's like a bomb going off in a venue. Yep. And I listen to the record, still listen to it pretty much, at least once a week. I think it still gives me goosebumps every time. It's just that first when the Can I Scream kicks in, it's just. Yes. Yeah, it's so cathartic, and I love the rawness and the energy, and seeing them live is really something. Yeah, it's a great. I mean, I used to DJ clubs in the UK, like rock clubs, because over the UK we have an abundance of them. Here, not so much, but but when you played that track, you just see this whole floor. Like when I scream, everyone kind of jumps at the same time, and then hits the ground at the same. It's just one of those bits. Even if you're just playing the CD, essentially, but you still get that energy from it, and it's a great track. absolutely, yeah. The second one will be Deftones' White Pony.
Nice.
For me, it's just a perfect album. The melodies, the beats, the powerful riffs, it's got everything. And then Chino's voice is just so on point for the entire album. Digital Bath is just a perfect song for me.
Yeah.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting him at the Kerrang Awards this year.
Nice.
The only problem with that is from meeting one of your heroes is I was just completely starstruck and I had nothing to say. So I think he thought I was a bit weird and probably a bit drunk, but he seemed like a nice chap. But they're absolutely a perfect album for me. The rest of their back catalogue is great as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, the third one is a real tough one. I could even name people like Baroness, Brand New, Gallows, Killswitch, but there are times when I just pretty much want to sit on a beanbag and eat a yogurt, and for those times I had to choose a sort of slightly different genre. And for that reason, I think Aphex Twin Selected Ambient Works would be up right my street for the yogurt times.
Yeah,
it's quite a nice antithesis to the metal, and like when you go back and listen to something like Dillinger, you just appreciate the complexity all the more.
Yeah.
So that's my three, I think.
Excellent. I love Aphex Twin. I love his the analog bubble bath CDs used to read out.
Yeah.
They're all fantastic.
So much fun.
Yeah, no, it was great. Like an artist just releasing stuff that was kind of just for the sake of not for like promotional wise. It was just releasing. So, but the tracks themselves are amazing. So, yeah, excellent. Good choices. Good choices. So, what are your hobbies away from work? What do you do to kind of escape your to get away from everything?
Get away from the desk.
Yeah.
So when I first moved back to London about 2 years ago, I made a promise myself I'd take advantage of the incredible sort of music scene here in London.
Yeah.
And I would go to one gig every week. It didn't matter what it was or where it was or what sort of music it was, really. I just wanted to be exposed to it. And I think I kept that up for nearly a year, which was, I did a couple of solo gigs as well, was probably that. That was sort of my. I mean, live music is something I put everything into. I go to it as much as I can, not so much as a cliche, but it's just to get out and see what people are doing. It's all well and good, like hearing things on the radio or on CD, but seeing any new techniques or just new sounds coming out.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I play rugby.
Cool.
For people in America, they're starting to know what rugby is now. The sevens tournament was quite good in the Olympics. Or just hanging out with friends and my partner. Nothing too extravagant, really. I like to chill.
Cool. Excellent. So, finally, last question. Where can people reach out to the company online or yourself?
Sure. So our website in the UK will be fireballuk.com. And then in the States it'll be fireballwhiskey.com. And that has contact form for all sort of inquiries, whether it's about the product, whether it's about you're running a bar and you want some sort of visibility or to run some sort of event, or even sort of the information about the tour or other activations that we're going to be running. If it's specifically about the tour itself, then the Academy Music Group websites will be the best. So if you go into one of the venues that we're running at, like the O2 Brixton Academy, there'll be lots of information on there and some contact forms, and then the tickets are available through TicketWeb.
Cool. Excellent. Well, James, thank you very much for your time today.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. This sounds like a great tour, great project as well to be working on. Good luck with it.
Thank you very much.
I hope it goes really well for you. I'm sure it will. It's got all the ingredients for it. So,
thank you.
But yeah, again, thank you very much for your time, James.
Great to speak to you.
Cool. You have a great rest of your day, okay?
Cheers, you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. This week's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/DJ Force X. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I have managing director and founder of the Northern music company, Andy Farrow. Welcome, Andy.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. How are you doing today?
Yeah, not too bad. It's sunny here in Yorkshire, so it's, a bit of a change.
It's a good day.
Yeah.
Cool. So just to get started, just get some origin story about Northern music on how you got it set up.
Okay. Well, initially, I started out in the kind of anarcho-punk scene, I suppose, which was in the early 80s, booked, promoted loads of bands, did compilation tapes, things like that. After doing a degree, I set up, it was called AMF Music originally, and then I merged with a partner into Far North Music, and eventually I pushed that partner out and it became Northern Music. But so I started professionally in 1988 when I got a band called Slammer, who signed to Warner's.
Nice. And so you've gone from there. You represent some of the biggest names in rock and metal. Right now, at the moment, I'm just looking down your management list, your artist list, and you've got Opeth, Paradise Lost, Catatonia, Devlin Townsend. These are all huge names within metal. Were you originally out for the sort of rock and metal, or was it just kind of you kept it open for all kinds of genres?
Well, as I said, my background was sort of punk, and basically, I suppose really, kind of getting into the metal or the more extreme metal was certainly, with a band like Paradise Lost, so we're part of the death metal scene, the underground scene. They were doing tape trading and things like that, so it was very similar to that kind of anarcho-punk scene. So how it all operated was similar. As far as bands that we manage, generally it's got to be rock. It doesn't have to be metal. My background with the punk and stuff, I've done alternative bands and, bands like Trail of Dead. I have some other companies, publishing company called AMF Music through Cobalt, and it's slightly wider there. There might be a few singer-songwriters. But, on the management front, he's more rock and metal because, I don't really know about pop. I do like ska. But, this is my kind of field, really.
Okay, cool. So what kind of what ethos do you run the company under? What's your aim when you take on these bands?
On the website, we say we facilitate the artist's vision. As long as it's my vision, but that's a joke. Well, I think, the major thing with the band, the kind of bands I deal with, a lot of them are kind of leaders and not followers within their subgenre. And some of them have not been easy to market because they've changed musically. So, a band like Paradise Lost is, even though they come full circle again musically, they've had a few different styles over the years. Devlin Townsend, I try and market him as modern-day Frank Zappa, but again, he's done lots of different types of record, and the next one he wants to do is a symphony, so it's very much like trying to keep them on the path that's working, but allowing them to do what they want to do musically because, that's their art. And again, with Opeth, I kind of got involved just after Blackwater Park, and obviously as a band, they've changed quite a bit. Fan base has changed, but I've always stuck with it and looked at a way of how you can market the band with what they're doing musically and growing it. So it's very much facilitate their musical vision, but also try and give them some advice on certain things they should and shouldn't do. Another area as a manager these days, album sales are down. So live is really important, as is merchandise, to earn money. So, I've kind of been very instrumental in coming up with ideas of doing special gigs, whether it's been at the Royal Albert Hall or Opeth at Sydney Opera House, Devlin Townsend doing Retinal Circus, because, to compete in a live arena, you've got to do something different. And a lot of people are liking heritage these days. They like to go back. It's not like if you play an older album that you're selling out. People do want to relive it. Yeah. And those people are older and they've got money in their pockets. I've just booked Terrorvision doing the regular Urban Survivors tour, and that's selling really, really well. So it's a case of their fan base is going to be 40, and they've got money, and they'll come and they'll enjoy it. So I think these days you've really got to be very clever on the live side. Also, I do something in Bulgaria in a place called Plovdiv where a band plays in a Roman amphitheatre with a 48-piece orchestra and choir. So far I've had Anathema, Opeth, Paradise Lost do it, and Catatonia are doing it this month, and then I'm talking about Devlin Townsend next year. So, nice. These are interesting kind of things that you can film and do a DVD. DVD sales are down a little bit, but it's, then you've got a live album. But I think it's you've got to take a different approach. And again, I've seen certain bands copy it. With Opeth, I came up with the idea of the Palladium. Unfortunately, 2 weeks before the gig, they told us we couldn't have the venue because Cats was in there. So we had to move it to the Theatre Royal. But since then, Ghost have done it, Dream Theatre's done it. So it's very hard getting a special venue for a band that might be deemed metal. Sydney Opera House were like, we can't have Opeth playing there, they're too metal, etc. And it's in February and it's sold out in 2 days, which is amazing. So I think if you give the fans something special, they'll come. The other thing I did with Anathema is put them in an acoustic format, playing cathedrals. Now, I'm sure there were people in that audience who didn't really know who the band were. They just came because of where it was. It was more like a cultural event.
Yeah. Cool. That sounds amazing. Some of those things, like with just having a symphonic orchestra with these bands, just sounds amazing. So what would you measure success on for you on that front? I mean, obviously, I'll ask you what your biggest success has been, but how do you kind of, what kind of bar do you set for yourself?
Well, I mean, these days album sales are down, but I still get very excited about chart positions. But we just don't tell how many we actually sell to achieve those positions. So you put it on the internet. So, when an album's out, I'm always trying to get good chart positions because it's good to see rock and metal bands utilizing their fan base and getting good chart positions. So, I've had like Paradise Lost to number 3 in Germany, nice. Opeth 15 in America, I think it was 16 in the UK. So, we've got a Devlin Townsend album out tomorrow. So we've got all the pre-orders on our various merchandise stores and ways to utilize the fan base and do a lot of formats as we've done with Opeth. I think we've got like 9 different types of vinyl.
Nice.
And, their fans buy it. So, chart positions are important. I mean, I suppose long term for me, because you can sit there and say you've got chart positions, therefore you're successful. But if it doesn't make money for everybody, it's not. So it depends how you define success. But, I still look at chart positions, selling out gigs. But I think, from the relationship with the bands, it's about setting them up in companies, their own companies that can operate as proper businesses where the band members are on a salary and then, if they do well, they take dividends. Some of my bands, I encourage them to buy houses. They've got pensions and things like that because too many bands get signed, especially in the 80s, and they get loads of money, buy a car, and it would lose value, and then they have nothing and they've got to go back to normal life. So I think that hopefully my acts, further down the line will think, he did okay by us. I've got a house, I've got some investments and things like that. So, because it's so hard to earn money for acts these days, especially the way that deals are structured and certainly labels trying to earn on absolutely everything. So, the other thing for me is, the kind of deals that I get for bands. I mean, I know labels think I'm pretty aggressive on deals. I do like a reasonable advance, but, the big thing that's important to me now is that bands get decent royalties. They also have a license, so they get their master back. I don't see why a label should own your record forever. And the real stickler is digital and streaming income, because so many bands, old contracts, they're earning 20% of what the label gets, and it's peanuts. Now, the label doesn't really have an overhead there, so I'm insisting going forward the bands get 50, 60% of that. And also the other area is I'm trying to future-proof contracts when I negotiate them where the artist is also able to have their own YouTube channel without loads of restrictions so that they can monetize it later on down the line. Because there's restrictions putting up music because people have got rights. But the thing is, if you get enough subscribers there, you can monetize those things. So I'm kind of I suppose the crusader to, get bands fair deals and look at different income streams on how they can make money. I mean, something we do with some of the acts is VIP tickets. Some people don't like these things, but they are necessary so some bands can tour or afford to tour in America. So, I think the thing is, it's about trying to negotiate good, fair deals for the bands so that they can operate businesses that are profitable and earn a living.
No, that's really cool. I mean, like, especially with the new digital streaming side of things as well. I mean, it's not that new, but it is more of the forefront. And actually, knowing to negotiate harder on those is great.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people, I shouldn't say it, but certain American managers, they're all about the advance and stuff. And at the end of the day, when a band's a certain size, your album advance can be a festival fee. The touring, the budgets are so big. But, again, digital streaming, a lot of rock metal bands is still 20-25%, but if you've got a younger audience, you're a Kerrang type band, it might be 50, but then you go to places like Scandinavia and 85% of people consume music through streaming, even black metal fans. So, even when it was like everybody thinking, should we go on Spotify or not, the reality is when you get to Scandinavia, that's how they consume music. The one thing you should do when you tour there is always take physical, because they will buy it.
Yeah, definitely. I was chatting to a label based over here in the States a couple of months ago, and they were saying they get like huge amount of revenue out of the streaming services for their artists.
For their artists or for them? Probably for them.
the label's set up by the main artist on the roster. So he kind of he has the mentality of the musician paying back the other musicians, and they do a lot of licensing stuff as well for movies, video games, all that kind of stuff. It's mainly electronic music, so it's a different genre on that pattern. But he was saying the main stream of revenue they get now is from just Spotify. That being their main source of income for the label.
Well, if you're saying there it's electronic, one of the bands I manage, 65 Days of Static, they're kind of post-rock, they hate that term, instrumental band. They've just done the soundtrack to No Man's Sky, the computer game. Yeah. And, what's interesting, I annexed that deal. I got the album back and then we put it out through another company, but with a band like that, their streams are really big, and even their biggest streaming song is comparable to Opeth's. And yet when you look at the physical sales, there's huge difference. So I think, again, it's about identifying who your audience is and how they consume music. I mean, luckily for me, with some of the bigger acts we have, we sell a lot of vinyl, and there is money to be made in vinyl, and there's collectors out there because, streaming, I mean, for years, I didn't even have an iPod, and, I'm finally on Spotify, and I love it because I can go and play a load of old punk stuff to younger people here and enjoy a Friday afternoon. So you've got that library, but I'm still very much about, physically feeling something, looking at the artwork and stuff like that. So, which certainly in a rock metal thing, that's still really important, packaging, and because people, they will pay for a good quality product, I think.
They will, and especially when a lot of the rock and metal bands, they do put a lot of thought into their artwork as well for their albums. And I'm a vinyl collector myself, so I love getting the big sized artwork over a CD, which is kind of small booklets, But actually having the physical product in my hand rather than a file on a computer it makes a definitely makes a difference for me. I mean, I'm old enough to remember just having physical sales. So
I mean, with that, talking about artwork, I'm managing Travis Smith now, who's done Opeth, Catatonia, Devlin Townsend. So, I suppose as a manager, I've got a management company, but I've got publishing, I've got a label, merchandise, shares in PR, shares in a festival. That when you're a manager, you're a bit of a jack of all trades. So I'm looking at areas and thinking, well, I should get involved in that, or I could help that person. So, artwork's an interesting thing where for record companies paying for the artwork and they don't have any merchandise rights, when they pay for it, they're not going to clear merchandise rights. And bands need to be careful on that they've actually got rights to make T-shirts, and other forms of merchandise. So, I suppose with all, so we have a holding company and then there's about 6 companies underneath and then some subsidiaries, but it's all about when you're a manager, you deal with, just about everything in an artist's career, even with the smaller bands, we'll do the VAT returns if they can't afford an accountant, but it's, it gives you a broad spread. And I've employed lots of ex-people from Roadrunner, and they work at a label and they come in and they're like, blimey, this is confusing because they only see one side from a label. And that's why, I think sometimes when people come for internships, if you come into a management company that's got a lot of strings to its bow, you get experience everywhere. It's just surprising how many people from a record label side, they don't even understand what publishing is and things like that. So, I think that as a manager, you can have a very good broad view.
Yes, definitely. I mean, from my background, I kind of self-managed the band I was in. And I
remember.
Yes. And you do pick up a lot of stuff, that's helped me in other parts of my life. Just like the way of managing budgets, managing people, and just like bits along the way that you don't really collect. You put it on a resume, and it's kind of like people look at it, you were just in a band. So now I've sort of like spread it out. I've put like just like man management, budgets, whatever on that front, and press and marketing and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of stuff you pick up in that field. Oh yeah,
definitely. But I'm sure, say I had to go for a job, and they say, what you've been doing? I've been managing bands. They would just look at you.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet, I would better do quite a few things, apart from type. I'm still not very good at that.
Cool. So what do you look for in an artist? So, someone, like myself, I did approach you at one point in my career, many years ago. But what do you look for when someone sends you, obviously the music's the forefront, they'll send you a CD or along those lines. But what else do you look for in an artist?
Well, the first thing's got to be the song, and, essentially a great song you don't have to spend a fortune recording it these days. And I've had bands in the past, a band called Loud who signed to China that was marketed by Polydor, and that was signed off a demo done on a Tascam 4-track. So it's the song. So originally, when the song comes to you, if you like the song, then you see the band live. Now, dealing with rock and metal bands, TV and radio's limited, so you've got to be able to perform. So, it's really important that you're good live. And then the other thing, to a certain extent, is image. I mean, you can have an non-image, and that becomes your image. But, certainly, going back from Kiss to Slipknot, there's bands with images, or you have to have something that's slightly different. The other thing I look for is to be slightly different, because what happens with music is styles are very cyclical. There was new metal, and then there's speed metal, thrash metal, and and then when metalcore came out, there was all these bands that had exactly the same formula, and you think, well, what is different about them, And I used this analogy the other day where you've got a band, say, like Slipknot, and then you had a band like Mushroom Head, both came out using a similar image. But, one band's bigger than the other. That was down to songs, I think. So, yes. I mean, it's, so it is the song, and then combined with live and then image and being the whole package. But, one thing that's come across recently with bands I've managed is that when I meet them, I've got to like the people, because I'd say in the past I've been driven for my love of the music, and I didn't get on with the people, and I'm not a puppet. So let's just say there's been some interesting times. Yes. And also I tend to attract a lot of crazy people. I've had, Devin's not too bad. He's great these days, but that whole thing, because you've got a relationship. And the thing is with bands, it's very important that you don't cross the line. Some of the bands that I manage, I would consider them friends, and there's ones that I know really well. Yeah. But it's very important, I think, that you're not too close, because you can't always be objective. So sometimes when a band's going, this is the lead single, or this is great for a T-shirt, I'm like, you're too close to it. So, sometimes having, what they were calling psychology, having boundaries is important. But, I don't go out on tour. I do the occasional gigs, but it's very much like, even when you're in a band, you've got to kind of try and get on with each other, because you're in a closed environment. And again, as a manager, you're not necessarily in that closed environment, but you're in a situation where you're dealing with creative people.
Yes.
That psychology says they can be irrational.
Yes, they can.
So I used to think, I'll better persuade somebody, and I do most of my work on email, and I'm not great at typing. If I go for a meeting with a band, generally I can persuade them why something's a good idea, but getting it across, typing is not always good, or you do it on email, and sometimes people say that I'm a bit abrupt, but that's just how I am.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't.
I'm straight, with stuff. I don't, if one of my bands has not done a great gig, I will tell them.
Yes, no, and that's good. That's what a lot of artists don't have in a lot of cases. They don't have that kind of like straight up honesty.
Yeah, but some of them don't want it either.
No, is that too. That's what I was about to say. Some of them don't want it, but
because the big problem you've got is that when you're a manager, I mean, technically you might have a contract with a band, who is the boss? You know, some bands might call me the boss jokingly or whatever. But, you know, it's like, it's a service agreement, but you're not, you know, are you employed by the band? It's a bit of an awkward situation. So, you know, if you come down really hard on a band, or you tell the tour manager to, the tour manager's going to be worried the band are going to sack him. So it's about getting the balance, and it's got to be about respect, really, because I've had some acts where I said, you obviously, you know, there was a certain black metal band, and I said, we obviously don't want a manager. Because I said, this is the agenda for the meeting. Oh, I don't want to hear about an agenda. So, you know, it's like, you know, you want to have a manager who can bring something to the table and fight for the act, but, you know, not just be, some bands just employ managers that are kind of like, that will be on a salary, that just deal with all the admin. But I don't operate like that.
Okay, cool. So what tips do you have for bands seeking representation from like yourself or anyone else? So I've seen on your website, you have this great diagram of what a band kind of needs. From the point of view of obviously management, representation on the like lawyers side of things. So what tips would you give bands that are kind of like getting to that point now where they feel they need that representation? Okay.
Well, I mean, the reason we did that kind of Venn diagram thing is that the music industry is very confusing, and I've signed bands who've had other managers, and I've been astounded they haven't been members of PRS, or they have no idea what PPL is, and everything's a mess. So that was just to give them a clear idea. You know, firstly, it's like, do you go to a lawyer? Do you go to an accountant? I mean, technically, to me, I would say getting a manager should be your first port of call. Now, in America, they love their lawyers. And, for example, the lawyer gets a percentage of the deal. So how I work generally is I'll go out, shop the band, negotiate the deal, and then I go to the lawyer. I've negotiated it. You look at the wording. This is how much you're getting paid, because lawyers are overcharging and the deals are not there that they used to be. Obviously, later down the line, complex agreements, you need lawyers, you need accountants. So first, I would say get a manager. Now, the thing is with a manager, you know, sometimes bands will have their best friend. Now, I'm a believer in acorns growing into oak trees. So your best mate might not have experience, but if he's the guy that you really want to manage you, maybe encourage him to go work in a management company so he gets support and he can learn. Because even if you do a music industry management degree, you know, experience is everything. And, you know, when I first started out, I mean, I know a lot more now, and I have actually got a course on, you know, managing bands that I do in Australia. Well, it's worldwide, but it's set up out of there. So, you know, I think the first thing is, you know, you either within the band. The other thing is, if you're a band, is also work out who's doing what. There's always leaders in bands, you know. Lars Ulrich was the guy really pushing Metallica, writing to people and things like that. So you're, you know, even before you've got a manager, there's often a leader in the band or somebody that's responsible. Because the other problem I find is that if bands are too democratic, they don't make any decisions, and it just goes round and round on the email thing. But yeah, I would say the first thing to do is, you know, obviously you've got to craft your songs and your live work, and then it's about approaching the right people. Because, you know, I've just had today 3 acts. One of them was a rap artist, and I'm like, this is good, but have you actually researched what we do? So the other thing is, you know, work out who you want to target. It's much like record labels. You know, look at other bands, look at how they're marketed and think, this is who I want to be with, or this band seemed to be doing well. Why are they doing well? Is it the manager? Is it the agent? Is it the label? Agent's another thing. You know, we have a booking division here that you can get a manager and even a small label deal, and sometimes you can't get an agent. But, you know, my response there is get a manager to book the gigs. You know, it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think, yeah, manager is probably first port of call. You know, you could go to a lawyer who could then send it to people as long as they're doing it for nothing, or a PR person. But don't get into one of these schemes where you're paying people up front, because there are some management companies that will charge for certain services. But, you know, really, if they're getting paid, they're not going to go pushing you to get, you know, as a deal for you, because you know, they need to earn. Whereas if it's like, oh, I'm providing this service and I've mailed out, or I've had meetings with this and that person. But, you know, it's the important thing is not just who you go to, but targeting the right person, whether that's a manager, agent, label, publisher, or what have you. So, with my publishing company, some bands come to me for management and I say, look, will you do 150 gigs a year? And they say no. I say, all right, well, if I sign your publishing and then I'll help you get a deal or help you get an agent, help you get tours. So on a publishing side, we're a bit proactive like that. So there were certain bands, say like Cult of Luna, and I kind of helped them get their deal, and a few other bands, Messenger from London, sign the publishing, then negotiate a record deal for them, and then get them some gigs and things like that. So, I think again, it's just about targeting. Make sure it's somebody that will understand your music or knows what they're doing with that type of music. There's no point if you're a metal band going to a rap, a rap manager or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. So I've got a couple of questions there for you. Then I'll let you get on with the rest of your day. So these are kind of like generic questions I asked a lot of the artists and people that I generally interview. So the first one is your 3 top albums.
Off the top of my head,
yes.
Oh, well, that's kind of right. I have to have a bit of time to think on that. I'd say Houses of the Holy, Led Zeppelin, Songs of Love and Hate, Leonard Cohen, and I'll go with London Calling, The Clash. Nice. Even though back in the day I was so sick of the Clash, I moved off into real hardcore punk like Discharge.
Yeah.
But it's kind of, as I was older, I kind of appreciated the songwriting and how this was a band who'd come from the punk thing where they could, really cross over. Obviously, I love all my own bands and I play it to death and stuff, but yeah, it's a difficult one off the top of your head.
Yeah, no, that's all right. That's cool. A lot of people struggle with that one, so that's fine. So what do you do away from music management? Do you get time to go away and you have any hobbies or any kind of pastimes or anything?
Well, yeah, it's always a bit of an issue, the holiday, although I am going to Barcelona tomorrow. Nice. Well, I have an allotment, which freaks a load of people out. Heavy metal manager, grows vegetables, but not very well. But, it's kind of like there's a lot of stress in this job, and I think, just getting your hands dirty, growing things, that's good. I do that. I spend a lot of time in saunas and steam rooms. Okay. I love that. Walk in the country. That sort of thing.
Cool.
But not other kind of they're the main sort of things I do outside of this.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So final question, where can people reach you? Where's the best place to reach Northern Music Company?
Best place to reach me is just to email me, and it's andy@northernmusic.co.uk. I do reply to everyone, including fans, and that's why sometimes I get 400 a day. And, other people put info at, or you can't get hold. But, my whole thing is if you're available, you don't know, 'cause sometimes with the bands, if somebody can't find out who the representative is, you can lose something. And this can happen in getting syncs for adverts, because a lot of these companies, TV adverts, films, they move really quickly.
Yeah.
So if they've got to try and, it's much like when I'm trying to find out who to get in touch with, if I can't see it on the web, I get irritated and delete. So yeah, the email's the best thing. I'm not keen on the phone because, if each band has got 5 members and you manage 10 bands and you had to speak to them all, you wouldn't get anything done.
Yeah, no, that's very
true. And the thing with the email trail is the evidence is there.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, there's almost a virtual paper trail, if you will. So
yeah.
Cool. So thank you, Andy. Thank you for your time today.
All right. Okay. Good
cool.
one.
Thank
See you later.
Man. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.